Now, I wanted to ask you about this brand new album. You've recently been quoted as saying that a live album was a long time overdue. Tell us a little bit about why you thought now was the right time to do another live album.
It was purely circumstantial, to be honest. By that I mean that we hadn't planned to do one, just the pandemic left us with a spare amount of time. We had our last record, Existence is Futile, delayed by a year. It was literally finished in 2020 and wasn't released for over a year. So by the time it actually came out, I was sick to death of the songs. And that also influenced our transition from our previous record label, Nuclear Blast, to our current one, Napalm. And in that year, our live engineer just suggested, why don't we... he'd recorded loads of tracks from loads of concerts from our world tour, which lasted for about 4 years. And he said, well, why don't you just give them to your studio engineer, choose the songs you want and put out a live record? We thought, that's not a bad idea. And then that sort of initial idea grew in fruition. And we had a shopping list of songs we wanted to put on, which was dictated by the fact that we didn't want to, albeit our last live record was 20 years prior, we didn't want to have any repeats, and we also wanted some fan favourites. We also wanted a good selection of tracks from across our back catalogue, not just focusing on one era or another, or one album or another, and some songs that we really wanted to do. So that was difficult in itself. And once the initial idea came into fruition, we did put a lot of love into creating it, but essentially it wasn't planned. Had we planned it, we would have done something like a Maiden, where we would have done essentially 2 days and recorded both days and had it as a live concert. But instead you get a sort of a myriad of windows into Cradle of Filth live. But I think it sounds pretty concise, and it enabled us to get a good selection of tracks as well.
You mentioned that process was pretty difficult, going through and working out what tracks should be on there. Was there a method to that process at all, or was it just sitting down and discussing it and coming up with what you thought would be the perfect list?
Yeah, basically that was it, and they had to be played anyway. There's no point putting on tracks that we didn't have.
Yeah.
So we bolstered the 4-year tour with basically it was 3 years, and then we continued touring as we were writing Existence is Futile, because we released the Remistress version of Cruelty and the Beast. So we went out and kind of joined summer festivals in 2019 with a load of Cruelty and the Beast flavoured. In fact, we brought it to Australia and Japan as well.
Yeah.
Australia, Japan and New Zealand, and played Cruelty and the Beast in its entirety. So we had those songs to choose from as well. Henceforth, by Baffrey Aria, which is my favourite Cradle song thus far, made the cut as well. Just rather selfish, because it's such a long song. It takes up the space of 2, maybe 3.
Now I have to ask, because I'm sure a lot of your fans are asking, why is that your favourite track?
I don't know, I think it's a good... I think it represents Cradle of Filth fairly well. It's a long song, so it covers a lot of bases, music-wise, and it's a bit of a journey. It starts very forlorn and majestic and very goth doomy, and migrates through transitional periods of new wave of British heavy metal and black metal. It's just got a bit of everything about it. And of course, it's got the glorious Ingrid Pitt, the Hungarian actress who played Countess Dracula, on the track as well. And this song was like the culmination of the story on Cruelty and the Beast. So yeah, I hold a special place in my heart for sure.
Those years when you couldn't tour because of COVID, you mentioned before that you were getting pretty restless during that time. But what was that like, having live music taken away from you? Because I know a lot of people here in Australia really struggled with that mentally, suddenly not being able to go to 2 or 3 live shows a week. What was that like for you as a performer?
Well, it was a bit shitty, naturally. We were great the first year. I know it sounds completely selfish, but I thoroughly enjoyed the first year of lockdown. Because we just finished our world tour, and fortuitously as well, we just started recording a new album. So when the lockdowns happened and people couldn't travel between countries, it meant that most of our band couldn't get over. And luckily the drums had been done, and we'd had extensive demos done, so I could carry on doing what I needed to do. And it was basically me and the producer locked away in a studio for 5 hours a day. Couldn't work at night, really. And so that was stretched out. We had fantastic weather here. It felt like being on holiday. It was a weird experience. The second year of the pandemic was obviously starting to strain a bit, because the album was finished and we were kind of just twiddling our thumbs. Although it wasn't quite so bad the second year here in England. I know it was quite strict in Australia, but we were able also to get to America. We had to get some very, very special visas for that, but the tail end of the pandemic, we were touring America. So we were very lucky. The pandemic didn't hit Cradle of Filth as bad as it did most people. I know bands that had finished writing albums and were just about to go on tour, had booked buses, had all their merch orders fulfilled, and then just couldn't do anything. And, that sucked big time.
How is it over there now? I know a lot of people have been talking about the fact that it's difficult to get to tour Australia at the moment because of the cost of inflation and everything in this country, and the crisis that we're going through financially. What's it like there for you now with live shows?
It's not so bad. It's good. Obviously there's certain criteria that's coming into play, like some venues charging extortionate money for merch. That seems to be the current sort of crisis at the moment. But not that we noticed it of our recent tour of the US, co-headlining with Devil Driver. We literally just got back from that a month ago. A second leg is happening of that later in the year, and we're hoping to bring that to Australia, Japan, and New Zealand next year. That's our busy year. This year is our creative year. The back end of this year, we're doing a load of live stuff. But from now until September, we're basically recording a new album. We have one festival in Las Vegas coming up in 2 weeks. As soon as we touch down on English soil, we're back into the studio, starting the drums. That's going to be like a 4-month process. We do a handful of live shows, like summer festivals during that period. So things aren't actually too bad at the moment. Obviously, the cost of fuel, buses, crew, everything's gone up with inflation. So the American tour, it was co-headline, which made obviously sharing the profit more difficult as well. But we had tricks with that. We managed to get through it. I think it's mutate and survive at the moment. I don't think it's going to get any easier anytime soon. I think the world is in a bit of recession, obviously due to the war in the Ukraine, one of many reasons. But it's not so bad. And we do have plans to come to Australia, like I say, next year. We'll just have to see how things progress financially.
Awesome. Now, Dani, you mentioned new music. There's some new tracks on this album as well. She Is a Fire, Demon Prince Regent. Tell us a little bit about those tracks. How did they come into being?
Well, basically, they were written toward the new album. But because of the substantial delay, because of COVID, we lost 2 musicians in the band. And then we took the conscious decision, we're not going to release an album with a new lineup, but 2 of the songs were a previous lineup. So we saw the live album as an opportunity, bearing in mind we knew it was going to be a double album. It had to be a double album. So we thought, these songs aren't laboriously long, so let's put those on the album, 1 song per side. They act as a kind of gateway into Cradle of Filth for current fans. Gives an insight in what the band are doing now, as well as the live material. And then we could press reset on the writing, which we did. So, they were destined toward a new album, and they found a home on the live record.
That's awesome. So, does it feel like a little bit of a new dawn for the band at the moment? Like you said, there's new members, there's a new record label. How does it feel right now for you? Does it feel like the beginning of something new?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're very much looking forward to... I mean, it's a bank holiday here today, as it probably is there, May Day. And once I finish all these interviews, I'm going to spend the day polishing up some lyrics and ideas for songs. As we're, I'd say 95%, maybe a little bit more, of the writing. We always, leave a little bit of room for manoeuvre in the studio as well. And no doubt there'll be some changes there. But we're pretty much there toward the new album.
Now, I guess one of the questions that a lot of people are going to be asking as well is, these tracks all came from that massive world tour that you did. Did you have a favourite show during that tour at all?
Loads of them. We had great times on that tour. That obviously included Australia and Japan and that side of the globe. I wouldn't say favourite shows, just favourite areas, favourite times. Obviously, World Tour took in the world, so there were. I really like the shows that are in strange places. They become more events that way.
Yeah.
And if I think back to a certain day, I'd say Ecuador was one of my favourites, because not only was it a great show, but we got to do some really cool stuff. We went to the equator, we climbed up a mountain. It was just part of this South American leg of the tour that was just in 2019, which probably was the busiest year that Cradle ever had live. I mean, we did over 120 shows that year, and it was everywhere. And a big departure, well, not a big departure because it actually hadn't happened, but chalk and cheese with the pandemic. So we had 2019, massive world tour. 2020 well closed down.
Yep. Yeah.
So not particularly favourite shows, but favourite circumstances and favourite continents. And the whole thing was just amazing.
Yeah. Doing 120 shows in 1 year, that is an absolutely amazing effort. And a lot of musicians have told me that during COVID, they actually were able to let their body reset. A lot of drummers in particular have said that it was a chance to let their body recover. What were you like after coming out of a year where you did 120 shows in the 1 year?
Fine, it was good. And it was just, as I said, selfishly, the pandemic for us was great. First year was amazing. The album, very great weather here. It just felt like being on holiday. The second year was a bit of a drag, but like I say, we managed to start playing shows. Did some huge live streams. A substantial cost to our well-being as well as like pocket, because well, not us, but we drafted in producer from America, and I had to quarantine for 12 days, which obviously wasn't great. And also, so did the band. At the time, two members who live in the Czech Republic had to quarantine for 10 days before doing live streams, which must have been very weird.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice it myself. I mean, I can recover in a week. It was fortuitous, the fact that we, like I said, finished a world tour and had written an album.
Yeah. Being a fan of yours for so many years, I noticed when I was listening to this album that I kept on finding myself being transported back to times in my life when these tracks were around. Like one of them, I was thinking this track was played at our wedding, and there was another track where I was thinking, I remember I was mourning the loss of a good friend when I first heard this song. Was that something that you know that fans will go through while they listen to this album, that it'll actually transport them back to when they first heard some of these tracks and maybe milestones in their lives as well?
Maybe. I mean, it does span quite a lucrative, lengthy career. And that's what we wanted to do with the record. When we had that wish list of songs we already put on it, obviously we had to have played them. But we didn't want to concentrate solely on new material or newer albums. And we didn't want to concentrate solely just on, the back catalogue. With early back catalogue, we wanted a very, smorgasbord of hits. So, yeah. And we also, there were other prerogatives, like I said, fan favourites, legendary songs, that maybe not we would play live, like Battery Ariel all the time. So yeah, it's quite an eclectic mix. You get stuff like Desire and Violent Overture, Lust More Than Wargasm, Rubbing Shoulders with like The Death of Love from Godspeed and Devil's Thunder, and Blackest Magic in Practice from Hammer of the Witches. Born in a Burial Gown from Bittersweets. It is an eclectic mix, and again, wanted to appeal to our fans rather than to our collective personal tastes.
Definitely. And talking of those fans, there's some absolutely great versions of this that are coming out with the deluxe box set and things like that. How much of a say did the band have over those different box sets and different formats on vinyl and things like that?
Well, obviously, it's a prerogative of the record company to earn money. With the onset of the digital age, obviously the record industry, and especially the metal industry, has been hit really hard, or at least the bands have, and obviously they're the lifeblood of the scene. Without the bands, there's no music. Without the music, there's no record companies. And bands have to earn money, believe it or not. It's our job. At the end of the day, we don't like calling it a job, but it's a job. And you have to have one eye on the creative side and one eye also on the business side. It's just part and parcel of life. We don't live at home with our parents anymore,
Yeah.
So, you've got to look out for yourselves, and record companies are going to want to do that sort of thing. What we do is make sure that we're very happy with everything, if it's top quality. We're not asking our fans to buy them, but if they want to, the opportunity's there. But yeah, we do put a lot of effort into it, and we do have the final say. It's always been a prerogative of Cradle of Filth to release good stuff, and not a piece of cheap shit, just for the sake of it.
Exactly. Well, Dani, I know we are running out of time very quickly, so I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today on Subculture, but also, is there anything you'd like to say to your fans out there before they sit down and listen to this amazing live album?
Well, I just want to thank you all for your continued support. We're hoping, like I say, to get across to Australasia next year. I mean, the plans are afoot. I just can't, it's now a year before, so I can't actually say when and where, but I know it's happening because I'm in conversation with our booking agent, and so is Des, our manager. So the live album is out now, came out on Friday. Other than that, we've got our collaboration with Ed Sheeran, which is just one song that should be coming out hopefully August, September, as a charity single. And our new album, well, I can only guess that it will be coming out roughly around this time next year. Next year's a busy year for us, so hopefully we'll see our fans on the live front. And yeah, just thank you ever so much for your continued support, because without you guys, then there is no Cradle of Filth. We'd just be, redundant in our bedrooms, sitting in our underpants, probably wanking.